You lied to an entire nation, and now you want to lecture me on transparency? Those words from Zohran Mamdani cut through the silence like a blade. The packed committee room froze. Cameras zoomed in. Even Jared Kushner, whose polished composure rarely cracked, blinked. His lips parted as if to respond, but nothing came out. It was the first time in years that someone, especially a state assemblyman, had openly challenged the man who once wielded power from the shadows of the White House. But what led to this explosive moment? And why did an elected official from Queens become the one voice powerful enough to shake Jared Kushner? It started quietly, with a contract. In early spring, reports began to surface of a massive real estate development plan in East Harlem. The project promised affordable housing, parks, and jobs. On paper, it looked perfect. But buried deep in the 300-page contract was a name no one expected: Kushner Capital. For many, that name stirred unease. Zohran Mamdani was one of them. When he scanned the documents himself, he noticed something alarming: a clause that gave a private holding company, partially owned by Kushner, lifetime development rights and immunity from city oversight. Why would a former White House advisor, someone with no official role in New York City governance, be granted that kind of power? Zohran didn't wait. At a town hall in Astoria, he spoke directly to his constituents. This isn't just corruption, it's generational theft, masked as revitalization. His words ignited something. By the end of that week, #Stop the Sellout trended on Twitter. Protesters gathered outside Kushner's Manhattan office. But the real turning point came when Zohran demanded a full investigation and public hearing. To everyone's shock, Kushner agreed to testify. Some said he was arrogant enough to believe he could manipulate the narrative. Others believed he had nothing to hide. But Zohran knew better. He had quietly obtained leaked internal emails that revealed meetings between city officials and Kushner's representatives, weeks before the bidding process even opened. On the day of the hearing, national media swarmed City Hall. CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News had cameras rolling. Zohran arrived alone, no entourage, no PR team, just him, a backpack full of documents, and a quiet fire behind his eyes. And then, under oath, Kushner tried to spin it all. This project is about equity and growth. I'm here because I care about New York. That's when Zohran struck. You care so much about New York that you filed your holding company in the Cayman Islands? The room gasped. Kushner flinched. And just like that, the power shifted. This wasn't just a scandal. It was the moment when a soft-spoken assemblyman stared down a real estate empire and refused to blink. But what would happen next? Could Zohran expose everything? Would the city stand with him or crumble under pressure? This was only the beginning. If you're as stunned as the rest of us, take a second to subscribe. Stories like this, they don't come around often. The silence after Zohran's Cayman Islands remark was deafening. For a brief moment, even the hum of cameras and the shuffle of papers halted. Jared Kushner, adjusting his tie with the same robotic calm he had mastered over years, leaned toward the mic. I don't think this hearing is the proper venue for personal attacks, he said, his voice flat but tight. But Zohran didn't back off. This isn't personal. It's public money. It's public land. And you're the one hiding behind offshore accounts while pretending to build communities. The room erupted. Some clapped. Some shouted. The chairman banged the gavel for order, but the mood had shifted. For the first time, Jared Kushner wasn't in control. Behind the scenes, Zohran's team had been working for weeks. Community organizers, independent journalists, and even a few quiet whistleblowers had been feeding him evidence: zoning maps, lobbying records, tax filings. It all pointed to one thing: a land grab disguised as urban renewal. And the numbers didn't lie. Of the 5,000 affordable units Kushner's company promised, Over 80% were set to rent at rates unaffordable to anyone earning less than $90,000 a year. In a district where the median income was closer to $42,000, this wasn't housing, it was exile. Still, Kushner played his part with confidence. He spoke of revitalization, job creation, philanthropy. He even cited his father-in-law's work on criminal justice reform as proof that he understood the struggles of working-class families. That's when Zohran reached for a folder. He held up a printed email and read aloud, "Let's fast-track the community approval process before anyone realizes who's backing this. That's from your development partner, dated January 12th. The bidding didn't even open until February." Kushner's expression finally cracked. His PR team shifted in their seats. Zohran continued, calm but cutting. "This isn't a debate about your intentions. It's about your actions. You cut the line. You greased the wheels. And now you're trying to dress it up as benevolence." Somewhere in the back row, someone whispered, "Holy shh." The media had their moment. The clip went viral within an hour. Headlines blazed across platforms. Assemblyman torches Kushner over secret deal. Zohran Mamdani versus the Empire. But Zohran didn't celebrate. After the hearing, he returned to his district and sat with tenants being evicted under a separate rezoning policy linked to Kushner's other holdings. A woman in tears showed him her notice. 30 days to leave the apartment her family had lived in for over 2 decades. "This isn't just politics," Zohran told her. "It's people's lives." He began drafting emergency legislation to suspend all contracts involving shell companies in housing developments. The bill wouldn't be easy. There were too many powerful interests tied to the same machinery Kushner operated in. But Zohran had momentum now, and the public was watching. As protests grew larger and louder, City Hall started to sweat. Editorial boards that once dismissed Mamdani as idealistic were now calling him the voice of conscience. He wasn't just exposing corruption, he was mobilizing against it. But the fight was far from over. Kushner's lawyers were preparing their counterattack. Smears, deflections, lawsuits, anything to derail the narrative. Would Zohran hold the line? Could one man really challenge a dynasty that had weathered the highest echelons of power? Only time would tell. If this is blowing your mind, drop a comment below. Your voice matters just as much as theirs. It didn't take long. 2 days after the hearing, a political blog with known ties to real estate lobbying ran a hit piece on Zohran Mamdani. The headline was brutal. "Radical Assemblyman has secret ties to anti-Israel groups, sources say." There were no sources, no quotes, just vague accusations and cherry-picked photos from old protests. But the timing? Surgical. And it worked. Right-wing influencers picked it up. Anonymous Twitter accounts flooded his mentions with threats. News anchors on national TV questioned his motives and whether he was weaponizing identity for personal gain. Kushner never said a word publicly. He didn't need to. His machine spoke for him. Zohran, however, didn't flinch. "They're not attacking me because I lied," he said in a neighborhood rally. "They're attacking me because I told the truth." His staff begged him to stay quiet for a few days. Lay low, let the storm pass. But he refused. Instead, he doubled down, appearing on public radio, local news, podcasts. Everywhere he went, he brought documents, receipts, proof. "This isn't about me," he kept repeating. "This is about who controls the future of New York, the people or the billionaires." Then came the lawsuit. Filed in federal court by a shadowy legal entity loosely affiliated with one of Kushner's former business partners, the suit accused Zohran of defamation, interference with commercial activity, and incitement of public disorder. The goal was clear: scare him, drain him financially, tie him up in court. But they miscalculated. Within 48 hours, a crowdfunding campaign for Zohran's legal defense raised over $600,000. Thousands of small donations, $5, $10, $20, poured in from every borough. Messages like, "Stay strong" and "You speak for us" flooded the page. And something else happened. People started digging. Journalists, activists, former city officials, all emboldened by what Zohran had started. New leaks emerged. One particularly damning document showed that Kushner's firm had received a special zoning variance approved in a closed-door session, a session chaired by a deputy commissioner whose spouse worked for a Kushner subsidiary. Zohran held a press conference on the steps of City Hall. This time, he didn't shout. He didn't accuse. He simply stood there, holding up the document, and said, "Every inch of this city that they buy, they take from someone who already lives here. I'm not here to play chess with billionaires. I'm here to flip the board." The crowd erupted. Meanwhile, the lawsuit started to unravel. A judge dismissed the incitement charge outright, calling it a clear attempt to suppress protected speech. The remaining claims were shaky at best, but Kushner wasn't done. That week, an anonymous political action committee launched ads in Zohran's district, slick, high budget, and nasty, calling him a chaos candidate, claiming he was blocking jobs and housing, using images of broken windows and graffiti. It backfired. Local residents, even those skeptical of Zohran before, started showing up at town halls and rallies. One retired teacher said on camera, "If these people are spending millions to take him down, maybe he's doing something right." The scandal that Kushner tried to bury had now become a movement. What began as a contract quietly slid through City Hall was now national news, not because of the corruption, but because one man refused to play along. But would it be enough? The final showdown was coming. A city council vote that could cancel the deal entirely. And behind closed doors, Kushner was making calls, promises, threats, deals. The system was fighting back. But so was Zohran. If you've made it this far, you're clearly not just watching. You're part of this. Hit subscribe. Stay loud. The vote was set for Tuesday. 11 members of the city council. 6 needed to cancel the deal. 4 were already on record opposing it. 2 were a mystery. And the rest? Leaning toward Kushner, thanks to a quiet wave of pressure, promises, and campaign cash. In the days leading up to the vote, Zohran Mamdani barely slept. He met with labor unions, church leaders, tenant associations, anyone who would listen. "This isn't just about one contract," he told them. "It's about whether this city belongs to the people who built it, or the ones who bought it." The night before the vote, the largest rally Queens had seen in years took over the park outside City Hall. Speakers blasted old protest songs. Children held cardboard signs that read, "I Zohran." Elderly tenants stood in the rain, chanting his name. Inside the building, though, the mood was tense. Whispers of backroom deals floated through the halls. One council member had reportedly been offered a seat on the board of a Kushner nonprofit. Another had suddenly received a $100,000 campaign donation. Zohran walked into the chamber carrying nothing but a manila folder. No lawyers, no consultants, just a final speech, handwritten and folded in half. When he stood to speak, the room went quiet. "I'm not here to make enemies," he began, "but I won't make peace with injustice either." He turned to the council. "Some of you are scared. I get it. They have power. They have money. But what they don't have, what they've never had, is public trust. You can either serve the people who elected you, or the people who bought the building across the street." He opened the folder and read from a new email. One obtained just hours before the meeting. It was from a Kushner rep to a city official, time-stamped 2 weeks before the official vote was even announced. Quote, "Assuming we get the green light, we'll begin demolition on March 1st. March 1st. That's next week. They weren't just confident. They were certain. Gasps filled the room. Even the most polished council members looked shaken. A few exchanged nervous glances. One slowly closed her laptop. Another folded his arms and stared down at the table. Then the vote began. One by one, names were called. Yes. No. No. Yes. Abstain. Then came the swing vote. Councilwoman Reyes. She paused, looked around, then said, "No. I stand with the people." And that was it. The final count. 6-5. The deal was dead. Outside, the crowd erupted. Car horns blared. People cried. In the back row of the chamber, a woman who'd faced eviction under the plan hugged Zohran through tears. "You saved my home," she whispered. But Zohran shook his head. "You saved it. I just gave you a microphone." The fallout was immediate. Kushner's firm issued a furious press release. Anonymous PACs pulled their ads. Some insiders said Kushner had planned to use the East Harlem project as a blueprint for similar takeovers in Chicago and Miami. That blueprint was now ash. Zohran Mamdani, the assemblyman they once mocked as too idealistic, had just taken down one of the most powerful political dynasties in America. Not with money or influence, but with community, truth, and relentless courage. In the days that followed, news outlets from around the world covered the story. Some called it a political miracle, others a masterclass in resistance. But for Zohran, it was simpler than that. "This city has always been a battleground," he said in an interview. "I just chose the right side." And so did thousands who stood with him, because sometimes all it takes is one voice to break the silence. If this story moved you even a little, hit that subscribe button and tell us in the comments, do you think Zohran's fight is just beginning?